Hey everyone, Eric Hayden here on YouTube. It's May 11th. I want to show you some of the blooms that are just starting to pop up in the garden. This traditionally is about the peak of our garden, but you can see as I kind of widen things out, while there are a couple blooms here and there, certainly far from peak. It looks like because of that freeze we had in April, we are going to be a good 1 to 2 weeks behind normal. Not a huge deal, just to lay in the blooms a little bit. I just want to show you some that are opening up. This is a little hard to see on camera because it's so red. Really pretty rose. This is Claire Elise. You can see some buds forming on that, but still, again, like most of the garden, pretty far away from peak bloom. Lots of buds to go. Again, this one is a hybrid tea from John Smith, Claire Elise. Before I show you some of the other roses, you can see still battling the nutsedge in the garden. Hit that with Roundup, especially for those that are away from the rose itself. This one, lighter on the petal count as well. This is called Crescendo. This is one that you can get from mail order fairly easily. It has a light fragrance to it. Certainly nothing like you're going to have with a Mr. Lincoln or even an old garden rose, but still really nice. One you've seen before, at least the first few blooms on it, is Dublin Bay. Climbing rose, maybe not the tallest climbing rose that you've seen, but still pretty decent height. This is, getting up the trellis after 2 years of growth, so that will be looking good here as it continues to grow in the garden. As far as this bed goes, mainly just buds right now. This is Marilyn Monroe, Cajun Moon. This is Baby's Blush. The best growing one in this garden right now is Mr. Caleb. You can see just buds on this. One thing I noticed, this bud that's crooked over here, you're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes things happen when you get changes in weather, but you can see predominant all the buds are growing up right, so not an issue with that bush. But just wanted to show you, sometimes a couple buds will go astray. This garden that had Claire Elise and Crescendo in the background, still a little ways to go for the peak bloom. This was a maiden rose a couple years ago from Steve Singer. Again, I've done videos on that. I'll try to link it below. This is Louise Estes. The first bud on this is coming right now. Has not opened up quite yet. As we look at the back garden, still, again, a lot of buds coming, just not quite open yet. This is Pope John Paul II. It's about a week to 10 days out. One that is a little closer opening, Secret. This is really nice light pink rose. It has a nice fragrance to it as well. That should be opening up here shortly. Back here, looks like this is European Touch, an apricot rose. And then that sported from this one, which is an orange rose. This is Folklore. Always has really nice form. We did have some rain last night, so that's why the blooms are like they are. But looking pretty good across our area for rainfall. Certainly looking better than we were before. I'll go over to this garden here. It looks like we, again, still far from opening for some of these. Some of the roses that have a slightly smaller petal count are just starting to open up. This one is Gemini. Really pretty rose. In the top 5 for roses in terms of exhibition, along with ones like Veterans Honor, which is in the back, and Moonstone. One of the parents to Gemini, or to Crescendo, is Gemini. You can see the Crescendo bloom looking really nice. Looking a little ragged. Unfortunately, one of my main issues here in eastern North Carolina is thrip damage. So I'm gonna have to start spraying for this. See if we can see any of these little buggers moving around in here. There you go. If you see those little dots, especially if they're moving, it's hard to do with one hand. We have a lot of cotton and farming around our area here in eastern North Carolina, so any of my light colored blooms don't look as good as they should because of those thrips, so I have to get on those. So Crescendo, Gemini, some of the earlier blooming roses in the garden. I'll continue to update you as this garden kind of comes to life here. We mentioned it's May 11th, so we still have a little ways to go with more blooms. This is a firm. You can tell that's on its way. A lot of blooms coming. Just behind that is Jewel Grace. Again, many of these have just not fully opened yet, but just want to give you a preview for what's coming down the road. One last one I'm going to show you is Sheila's Perfume. This is on own roots. It's a little smaller rose bush. At the time, it'll continue to grow. This is fragrant, very, very nice rose. It's technically a floribunda, so usually you get clusters of blooms, and they tend to be a little smaller than the single hybrid tea that you might get on some of these other roses, but that coloring is really hard to beat. Again, that is Sheila's Perfume. Right here is Signature. Again, blooms are coming on it. And this is the second Louise Estes. Just a good growing rose. I will link below the maiden roses from Wisconsin Roses. I'll try to link some of the videos just to show you how big that rose has gotten, and the one over here we showed you at the beginning of the video. Again, these came as budded roses. If you give them some time, a year or two to grow, you don't see any difference versus the other roses in the garden. They have less issues with shipping because they come, you know, budded to multiflora, so they're not cut back for shipping. And you can grow them in your garden, and once they become established, really wide selection that Steve offers up in Wisconsin Roses. So I'll link that below if you're into some of these exhibition roses. Claire Elise, I didn't get it from Wisconsin, but I know he has that. Randy Scott, some other ones, Affirm, Louise Estes, Cajun Moon, Cajun Sunrise, a lot of selection from Wisconsin Roses. So that's it. We're actually cloudy today. We're going to be in the 50s for highs tomorrow. I always talk about upstate New York because I used to live up there, but that's chilly for the first 11, 12 days of May. But we're getting rain with that, so I'll take it. We had 0.2 of an inch last night, and then we expect a ½ inch tomorrow. So the grass is trying to green up, but you can see where the sprinklers haven't hit is looking pretty parched, because we have, up until the last couple days, hadn't had good rain for over a month, which is a long time to be without rain, especially in the green up period of spring. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the tour today, and as always, comment below. Share your photos. If you have a video, I'd love to see them, pictures. Let's get some rose photos going and show folks why we do this hobby of growing roses. Have a good one.